Sup, freaks? A day late, but better late than never. Matt, how you doing?
My fault. I had a 9-hour drive yesterday, so
How was that 9-hour drive?
I gave Marty two options. I said we could record on Wednesday or we could record today. And we did a great rip on Wednesday. When are we releasing that? On Monday?
I plan on releasing it tomorrow morning, actually.
Tomorrow morning. We did that with Adam, who's the lead maintainer of CoinOS. So that's a fun rip.
Fun rip. You guys are going to learn a lot about Liquid. Adam's been building that for much longer than I realized.
I had no idea. It wasn't on my radar at all.
Yeah. Really cool Bitcoiner.
Yeah, 9-hour drive yesterday. Words to the wise to the freaks: do not speed in Virginia.
Ooh,
Bad state to speed in.
did you brush elbows with the state police in Virginia?
Maybe a little bit.
Ooh,
You know, if you go over 85 miles an hour in Virginia, it's a reckless driving, automatically reckless driving.
So do you have to go to court?
If you get a reckless drive, if you get over 85, you have to go to court. I think it could be like a max of like 2,500 misdemeanor, $2,500 fine.
Yeah, when I was a young asshole at 16, I was driving to a lacrosse tournament at Rutgers, and I got caught going 90 into 65. That was not fun. I had to go to court for that.
Not in Virginia, though. In Jersey?
In New Jersey, yeah. Don't recommend it in Jersey either, though.
Yeah, I thought Jersey was bad. Virginia's way worse.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't get that ticket, so.
Well, you're here now.
Just words to wise.
How did you pass the time? A lot of podcasts, music, conversation with your significant other?
I had my lady listen to the Godfrey episode on Stefan.
Oh, I still have that on my queue.
Oh my!
I hear it's funny.
It was my second time listening to it, but I was like, "You gotta listen to this." So we listened to that. But yeah, a lot of music.
Boss. We've got a long list today. A lot going on. Yesterday was a crazy day, crazy week. Getting closer to an election, if you freaks couldn't tell. But we got a lot of Bitcoin stuff to focus on, so let's just hop into Clark's dashboard right away. The current price of Bitcoin is $11,324. $1 is going to buy you 8,831 sats. You can currently buy 275 barrels of oil with 1 Bitcoin or 5.9 ounces of gold. We're at 1.7% of the gold total market cap. That is Bitcoin, not Matt and I. Maybe one day we'll get there, buddy. We're going to have a difficulty readjustment sometime tomorrow. We're 163 blocks away right now. That's estimated to be an upwards adjustment of 2.9%.
Hash rate's at all-time highs right now, right?
Believe so. Let's check. Sorry, Clark. We're gonna leave your dashboard and go to one of my new favorite bookmarks, which is bitcoin.sipa.be.
Yeah, Sipa's page is great.
Yeah, and it's above 140, probably around 150.
For all intents and purposes, it's been like all-time highs. Just keeps breaking all-time highs.
Yes, a lot of hash rate coming on the network, more efficient hardware coming to the market. I guess wiser miners. There's a lot of people plugging machines here in North America, and the fundamentals around Bitcoin are also very strong outside of mining. So, tingle in the air. We've had a bit of a little price pump here in the last week, particularly over 11,000. Broke out that $10,000 range, and we've been hovering pretty strong above 11K. Do you have any price talk to add to this, Matthew?
It seems the price action seems strong. It's good when you see these like flat areas and then like just like a solid upward movement that's not, like these big hills and valleys.
Yeah.
And like with the all-time high hash rate. But the freaks know I'm always bullish, so take it with a grain of salt. Last time I got really bullish, we dumped, so.
Yeah. Never forget the market buy of 2019.
Well, last time I brought that up, I was like, there's a tweet from like a month ago or 2 months ago. I was like, we're like $500 away from that point, and we dumped right after I tweeted that. I jinxed us into a dump.
All right, so
we still haven't hit that point. We still haven't gotten to that point where I said the market buy. We're close. It's about 8,000 sats per dollar. What are we at right now? Like 8,700, right?
around there, yes.
So that's what I'm watching. For me personally, the number is 8,000 sats per dollar, because then I could tell the freaks just to sell everything, and I could have no guilty conscience on my head.
Praying that we get to that point soon, just so your conscience can be cleared.
Bitcoin goes to zero.
Hey, you freaks can still get your 1 sat per byte fees in. Actually, if you're
probably the last time ever.
But if you're willing to wait a day, you can send a 1 sat per byte transaction. Immediate next block and 1 hour estimates are both at 62 sats per byte.
Or you can use Liquid and send it for 0.1 sat per byte.
Ooh, Matt, you'll hear it in tomorrow's episode. Maybe a big Liquid bull right now.
Maxi.
Speaking of Liquid, there are currently 2,600.79 Bitcoin pegged into the Liquid sidechain right now. The capacity value is around $30 million. Whew. Again, fundamentals are strong.
Where's Whirlpool at unspent capacity?
Whirlpool is at 1,646.59 Bitcoin. It's pretty flat from last week.
Moving up.
We're moving up.
We breached 1,700 for a little bit. Back down.
Forgot to mention we are block height 653,022. 88.19% of all Bitcoin have been issued that will ever exist have been issued to the network. Pretty crazy.
That number will never go down.
No, it will not. Big list today, as we mentioned. Before we get into it, just got to get it out of the way. This episode of Rabbit Hole Recap is brought to you by our good friends at Unchained Capital. You freaks already know all about them. We actually got news to talk about them again this week. I love when they have news. We can work into the ad read. Cold Card. When Cold Card? Question has been answered. Now you can go use Cold Card with Unchained's multi-sig quorums.
About damn time.
It's about damn time. We've been asking the question for quite some time. So if you want to set up a multi-sig vault with a Cold Card, that is now possible on Unchained. On top of that, if you want to go from 0 to a multi-sig vault with your hand being held along the way with the white glove service concierge, Unchained Capital is offering that. So they will do many video calls with you to answer your questions about multi-sig, to get you comfortable with the product suite, with the vaults particularly. It's a $1,500 package. If you tell them that TFTC sent you, you're going to get $50 off. But that package includes, again, video conference calls with the Unchained Capital team to explain what multisig is and to answer any questions you may have. On top of that, they're going to send you hardware wallets if you need them. Now, Cold Card, I believe they have a 10% off deal for Cold Card this week on their website. So we're going to link to that as well. But the concierge service will get you going from 0 to multi-sig. So you get the hardware wallets and you'll set up the quorum, and they will put $1,000 in your vault. So go to www.unchained-capital.com. Check out their product suite. We're going to link particularly to the concierge service in the show notes. Again, tell them that Marty and Matt sent you. This episode of Rabbit Hole Recap is also brought to you by our good friends at the motherfucking Cash App. You guys already know all about them. There'll be stack sats, send sats, sell sats, and receive sats. We're saying sats, because sats are the standard. All right, we're not buying fractions of Bitcoins. We're buying whole sats. Right now, $1 will get you around 8,800 sats, a little bit more. It's a good bargain, if you ask me. On top of that, if you're in the slivers of stonks, you can do that via Cash App investing on the Cash App. If your favorite stonk's a little too expensive, you can buy as little as $1 because all this is connected to your bank account. There's no 4 to 5 day waiting periods. You can start investing today and stacking sats today. Make sure you use the code STACKINGSATS when you download the app for the first time. If you haven't already, you're going to get $10, and $10 is going to go to our good friends at Owls Lacrosse. That's Owls Lacrosse. Go download the Cash App. Strong hoots for the freaks this week. Strong week, Matt. Should we start out with BIP Taproot?
Well, just interesting thing about that Cold Card integration, which we've been looking forward to for a while from the Unchained Cap team, is they chose to go air gapped only, which is you can't use the USB mode on the cold card. You can only use it in air gapped mode.
I like that.
Is an interesting choice, design choice. Yeah, I mean that's the only way I use my cold card anyway. So, yeah, I kind of dig that.
Can't speak for the team, but maybe that's with delayed cold card. This is going over that UX trade off.
I don't know. I'm not gonna give them an out.
Yeah.
Took long enough, guys. Glad it's there.
Big week. What should we start on? Should we?
We could start with Taproot. That's bullish. I mean, we really should just, before we get there, let's talk about the LND vulnerability that we know absolutely nothing about that was dropped right after RHR last week.
Yeah, I think that's a good first topic.
Just because we like to front load vulnerabilities. We're going to find out what that vulnerability is in 4 days. Before then, you should, the smart move is to update to the most recent version. I think it's 0.11.1, I believe. And all the major node packages have released updates if they weren't already up to that version of LND, and that is only LND supposedly. And once again, we have no idea what the vulnerability is, but it doesn't sound good.
No, I mean, if you can't have your node running on any version before 0.10, it seems like it's a.
Well, I think 0.10 is vulnerable too.
Yes. 0.10 and before.
So literally every version except the current version.
Yes.
Right?
Make sure you're upgraded to the latest version. I upgraded my node yesterday. I believe.
Yeah. Sorry.
Our TFTC node should be upgraded as well.
Yeah, I hope so. And keep in mind here that there's multiple Lightning implementations. So you have C Lightning, you have Electrum's Lightning implementation. There's Rust Lightning. But LND is by far. Oh, and you have a Claire from Async, but LND is by far dominating on the network. I think it's like 75% or something of nodes on the network are LND.
Yeah, that number wouldn't surprise me.
It's pretty high, so not great.
Yes, so be aware, freaks. If you're running LND,
update. Make
sure you're updated. Speaking of updated. Like I mentioned earlier, BIP 340, BIP 341, and BIP 342, also known as the BIP Taproot proposals, have been merged into Bitcoin Core. This is a big step towards getting it activated. It's not activated yet. Now we're at the point where the network has to decide whether or not it wants to activate and use these upgrades. Again, Schnorr signatures would change the way they control private public key origination, don't they, too?
What do you mean by that?
They help you create your private public key pair. I'm like,
yeah, instead of ECDSA.
Yeah, instead of ECDSA. Yeah. And this would, I mean, we've talked about Schnorr plenty of times on this podcast. It was patented when Satoshi first launched a Bitcoin network, so it couldn't be used. The patent has expired within the last 11 years, last 12 years, and people believe that it is a more efficient, better way.
It gives you massive efficiency gains.
Yes, you can combine things, makes multi-sig with cross-sig aggregation, which will not be here yet, but potentially in the future. Makes it destroys the heuristics used by chain surveillance companies. Massive. So that Taproot, which is another massive upgrade, which should make Bitcoin more extendable, what you can do with UTXO.
They're mostly setup upgrade.
Yes.
It's mostly a setup upgrade, except it does have an immediate result of making multi-sig cheaper. And Bitcoin Magazine just had a really good video.
They did.
Video talk on it. That was like an hour and a half. So go check that out on their YouTube page.
It's Aaron Van Weirdum, our boy CK, Andrew Polstra,
Adam
Chris
Gibson,
Belcher.
And Chris Belcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just keep in mind that I wouldn't say this is like the easy part, but we still have like I would say the hardest part, not to diminish all the work that's been done. I appreciate everyone who's put in so much work and review into the proposal and getting it merged. But now is actually, when we have to like figure out how it's going to actually be upgraded and included into the network.
Yeah, so there's two main activation paths right now are popular, I guess is the way to say, Bitbait and Matt Corallo, who proposed a new form of a a new form of a soft fork that has like a longer signaling period, and then if the signaling doesn't work, you have a 6-month period of discussion, and then you start signaling again for a longer period of time, I believe. Where Bitbait is a little bit more straightforward, I believe.
Well, one is it starts with minor signaling, I believe, and then it goes to, if that doesn't happen, then you have like a flag day, which is like what UASF was.
Yes.
But I guess in Corrallo's proposal, it's all like combined into one. And it's really, really long time frame. It's like 3 years or something like that.
Yeah, I think the longest it could take is 3 years. I believe the shortest is 12 months.
Hopefully we just have minor signaling and there's no controversy and you're good. But we'll see. Don't get your hopes up.
Yeah.
What's interesting is our boy Fiat Jaff. Don't know if I pronounced that. Whatever. He's our boy, and he. I feel like every time I have something that I like wish existed, like he has already built it. Like he just quietly builds awesome projects in the background, and he has like a prediction market set up for it already that uses Lightning.
Oh, well. This is funny.
Like he could have named it better, to be honest. It's on his Edelenium platform. ETLENEUM.com platform, predictions.that.com. And that's supposed to be obvious. I mean, if you can tell from the sound, it's like a take on Ethereum, right? And like the idea is that you don't need like a distributed consensus chain to build these things. You can just build it centralized. And he basically just built it centralized. And there obviously is trust in him to use it, but because of that, you get like massive efficiency gains because it's super centralized. So that's pretty cool.
Competing with Augur.
Yeah, I mean it's a very simple, nice prediction platform. That's it's pretty cool.
Well, this is funny that you bring this up, particularly because one of the shout outs this week mentions this specifically. So I'm wondering,
prediction platform.
Yeah, I wonder if it's not the platform, but the particular prediction you're talking about.
Will there be a signaling mechanism for the Taproot soft fork deployed before the end of 2020?
Here it is. I need help. I'm reaching out to all the freaks. I'm really hoping someone will set up a betting pool for guessing when Taproot is going to be activated. I can guarantee I'll bet 5 million sats that it will be activated, I guess, by March 23rd. Maybe the payout could be based off of some bell curve distribution of the dates guessed and where your guess lies on it versus how close you were to the actual activation date, or something like math. Game theory work, ? Teach me why not. I have no idea how this prediction market would be created.
So what's interesting here about his is that it's not whether or not it gets activated. His is saying, will there be a signaling mechanism chosen before the end of 2020? So what his market is deciding is basically what's happening is all the developers have PTSD. And most of the stakeholders do, from how controversial SegWit was, right? So everyone seems to be really scared about putting their neck on the line and deciding which signaling mechanism to choose. And that's the first step, right? The first step is we have to at least have a signaling mechanism before we can even see if it gets signaled.
Yeah. And I think Matt's proposal for activation is probably a product of that scarring from SegWit 2x that you mentioned.
Yeah, but I think part of the issue is like you're just asking for trouble. You know, we got to have a little bit of confidence here. You can't.
Right. Yeah.
If you're like bringing in controversy by just expecting it. I don't know. We'll see.
I think the quicker this activation path is decided and people start signaling, the better.
I don't think it gets activated before the end of 2021.
I'll take the under on that.
Okay, we'll see.
We'll see.
You want to put actual money on it?
We can, yes, but let's put 1 million sats down somewhere.
1 million sats. Why don't we donate it to HRF's? The loser has to donate it to HRF's dev fund.
I like that.
Okay, 1 million sats 2021.
Yes. Set your reminders for December 31st.
It has to be activated.
Yes. Oh, well. Damn, now I'm like questioning.
Like we have to have Taproot and Schnorr. Like it's live.
You know what? Let's will this into existence. Yes. 1 million sats loser to Human Rights Foundation.
There we go.
Mark your calendars, December 31st, 2021.
Remind us, freaks.
Yes. Go into your phones. Go into December 31st, 2021. And say, is Taproot here? If not, Marty, 1 mil to HRF. If yes, Matt, 1 mil to HRF.
Either way, HRF gets the 1 million sats.
Yes. Should we just rip through the rest of the shout-outs? They're great shout-outs this week.
Yeah, let's go to the shout-outs.
The following is a test of the Bitcoin broadcast system. Important information will follow this tone. Penis. Thank you for your attention. This was a test of the Bitcoin broadcast system. Love, dirtbags. You dirtbags.
Cheers. That was great. Put a smile on my face.
Gentlemen, I love this shout out. Very, very excited to read this shout out and share this news with you freaks. Gentlemen, I come to you with extremely bullish news, much more bullish than even the MicroStrategy news. In my honest opinion, my wife and I are expecting our second child. This marks yet another new citizen of the world that will never have known a time when Bitcoin did not exist. As with my 3-year-old daughter, I will do my best to raise them both as kind-hearted, low-time preference individuals. One last thing. In true Bitcoiner fashion, we've managed to time our children with the halving cycle. Our daughter was born mid-bull during the last Bitcoin epoch. Here's to hoping the next kiddo brings along the same good fortune. BTC Sessions procreation model is greater than the stock-to-flow model. From our boy Ben at BTC Sessions. Congratulations,
Ben. Ben. Oh, congratulations.
Very excited for you and your wife, your family, your daughter.
That's way more bullish than MicroStrategy.
Right.
It's not even fucking close.
If the trend continues within the Sessions family to have a child and then incite a bull market, I'm going to root for the Sessions family. Seriously, though, congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's way more bullish.
Yes. You'll like this one, Matthew. Average folks always underestimate the importance of privacy. They have a hard time grasping why it's important. This is because it's intangible. When you lose your privacy, you don't see a physical thing being taken away from you. But the targeting that results from the loss of privacy leads to mind control. Plain and simple. When you lazily accept that loss of privacy is inevitable, no big deal, or argue that you have nothing to hide, you give up personal agency. You succumb to mind control. You become a cuck, totally subservient to the elite powers that rig the system. Your ancestors are rolling in their graves. Man the fuck up and stop giving yourself away for the ability to like GIFs and make dance videos. It's embarrassing. Privacy is freedom. I know the freaks believe in freedom, but do you? In closing, stay humble, stack sats, and keep your tits in a barrel, freaks.
Love it, 100%.
Yes.
There's no freedom without privacy.
Agreed. From an anonymous freak.
Cheers, freak.
Those were the shout-outs of the week. Thank you, freaks.
Appreciate you all.
For asking questions, announcing births, riling up the troops to protect and preserve and value their privacy. Quality shout-outs this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect time to bring up that our Department of Justice is spearheading a global effort to ban end-to-end encryption. The war on encryption has not ended yet. It has been a constant battle, and it will be a constant battle for a long time coming.
How two-faced was that release?
It always is. This is always what they do, and it's important for people to realize that this is a ban on end-to-end encryption. It's an attempted ban, even though they won't say as much, because if you have a centralized backdoor, that backdoor will never be secure. So in effect, what it does is criminalizes workable end-to-end encryption. And the real fear here is this doesn't stop criminals from using it. Like end-to-end encryption is available as free open source software. Criminals, our enemies, they're still going to use this software. It just hurts law-abiding citizens. It just hurts honest people because their products, their general products, their access to these encryption tools will be extremely limited, and if they do use them, they're going to be de facto criminals. They get criminalized.
Yes. There's no such thing as a backdoor.
Vulnerable.
Yeah. I mean, a backdoor encryption can't be backdoored. It's literally math. If there is a backdoor, there's something weird going on.
It could be backdoored. Exactly. It's not secure. It's not secure, and we can't trust these. We can't trust these companies. We can't trust our governments with protecting this information. They will get compromised eventually, and it makes us extremely vulnerable. Like it amazes me because it's very similar to the gun debate, and it's interesting how people fall on different sides of that. You'd think that people that were that understand that criminals can still get guns would feel the same way about encryption and vice versa, but a lot of times that's not the case.
No.
It's very interesting. And anyway, so this what's even scarier about something like this is a global push. So it's the Five Eyes countries, which is US, UK, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, plus Japan and one other country. But anyway, there's this global push to try and ban encryption, and we need to push back on it. India, yeah. So it's very scary. This is I think it kind of went below the radar. Like it's not being discussed enough.
Yeah, it got caught up in the Trump takes his mask off news cycle.
It makes us extremely vulnerable. It'll make us extremely vulnerable. If you're a patriot, then you should not support this. If you're pro-individual, you should not support this. If you're pro-freedom, you should not support this. Like, pretty much no one should be supporting this.
Agreed. It's Bill Barr pushing this stuff. I believe he's made an attempt like this in the past, correct? Even before he was in the Trump administration.
I mean, look, the war on encryption is a long, it used to be treated as munitions back in the day. And you couldn't export it.
Yes,
yeah.
Well, with this thought in mind, I don't know if we have it on the list, but I recommend you freaks go check out the series on Reason.com of the history of the Cypherpunks in the context of what Matt was just discussing there. I think it's important to know the history of the technologies that came before Bitcoin and built the building blocks that led to Bitcoin and the wars that the builders of the technology went through, particularly the PGP wars of the 90s against the U.S. Supreme Court. And they actually wound up got code deemed as speech, but it seems that this battle is not over yet, as Matt has been describing.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, they might not ban like PGP encryption. They might not success, and it's hard to enforce, right? Open source software is extremely hard to clamp down on. It's going to spread. They're not going to be able to stop it. So that's a plus. The plus is that it's going to be extremely difficult to enforce, if not impossible. They'll try and make examples of people. What they can do is, things like Signal, iMessage, these, Zoom's talking about adding encryption into their product line. Like, these things where it creates end-to-end encryption is like the default that people are able to use in these very accessible products. Those are going to get removed, right? Or they'll have backdoors in them that make them insecure. And another thing here to keep in mind is this is why open source software is so important, because Apple can say that iMessage is encrypted, but if we can't inspect the code, then they could just put a backdoor in there and we wouldn't even know what was going on. You have to trust them in that situation. So encryption isn't secure if it has a backdoor, and encryption isn't secure really if it's not open source and you can't actually view the code and audit it.
Yes.
Very dangerous precedent here. It's very it's not a good thing to see.
So like we say, speak up. This battle has been won in the past. It seems that there is another right in front of us now. But it's time to sack up, push back, and fight for technology that, honestly, they're not going to be able to stop it at the end of the day. They're just wasting time and resources. So hopefully it's not like alcohol prohibition where everything still went on. You just push people to be criminals. But with that being said, it's coming from both sides, right? Like we have the attempts to be able to spy on you within these apps, and then the other side of it is not even allowing you to do certain actions, which is censoring. And so I think it's important to know that yesterday it sort of went under the radar as well, but it was actually poetically under the radar as the Twitter censorship drama was unfolding. The fact that Twitter censored people from sharing a particular article from the New York Post. Yesterday afternoon, there was a hearing at the House Intelligence Community during which a few individuals were arguing that the government should have more oversight over the internet and the ability to censor certain groups with certain ideas like QAnon and quote-unquote white supremacist and other groups, boogeymen like that, as the Twitter drama was unfolding. And that's something that went under the radar. I think you freaks should check out as well as the YouTube video, because it's pretty scary what they're talking about and how they're justifying their arguments to the government to censor more online.
Well, that's what these tools, we're going towards. This is why I call the Constitution a shitcoin, right? Because I don't think you can rely on laws to protect this speech. I think you got to rely on code. I think these platforms need to be distributed. They need to have encryption baked into them. I think speech needs to be protected through technology, right? And rather than debate, who gets banned and who gets censored and who gets blocked, like these platforms should just be built in ways that can't happen in the first place, that no one can do that no one has the power to do that. And you can still moderate them. You just have like moderator lists or something that you subscribe to, where you're like, like you're similar to how muting works now on something like Twitter, but where you're able to subscribe to like these mute lists so you don't see the content you don't want to see, but you can choose to do it. And criminals can still be prosecuted. You just do good old-fashioned police work. And I just want to say here that this is why I took an extremely hard line about being against the WeChat TikTok ban, okay? Because we cannot have the executive branch of our government deciding which apps you can have on your phone and which apps you can't. It's a slippery slope on both sides. I don't think people are constantly seem to be picking, which situations piss them off based on whose views they agree with. But it's coming from both angles, and it's an extremely slippery slope that we got to be very, very fucking careful about.
I completely agree. When you see the justifications that are being made to do this too from fellow citizens, it's like nauseating. Like some people want to give this shit up. They're so afraid of the quote unquote QAnons and like extremist groups of the world online that they're willing to completely throw out the baby with the bathwater and destroy everybody's ability to speak freely, openly, explore crazy ideas if you want to. Like you can't nerf the world. You have to. It's very belittling, too, to assume that people are too stupid to discern for themselves what is real and what is not. It's very patronizing and paternalistic, which the state seems becoming more and more and more paternalistic. And now they're getting into what you can talk about, which is pretty crazy, freaks. Again, frogs boiling water. It's insane.
But we also see, so that's on the left, right? You just brought up the left again about with QAnon and that House committee meeting. But then on the right, you have people saying they want to change Section 230 to make it so that the government can regulate Twitter and choose how Twitter interacts with their platform, right? So it's fucking messy on both sides. Like there's like a very small Venn diagram there of people that are coming up with the right takes here. We got to be very fucking careful. Like I do not want our fucking federal government deciding how these platforms are run.
No.
Like that is not the solution.
No, love them or hate them, Beauty is a stick in everybody's ass, but being like, hey, yeah, if you want something better, build something better. I do get the argument that the investment that individuals put in the mind share and the network effect. We talk about network effects. Bitcoin's a huge network effect. These social media companies are sort of dictated by network effects too, and the more people, the more conversations, the arguably better the product is. But if you start censoring the framework or building a framework in which conversation can happen, what topics can be covered, it sort of depreciates that network effect. And so if you're unhappy with Twitter, seek out alternatives. I started posting a couple posts to Gab yesterday to see what that's like. There's a small Bitcoin community over there. I was on Mastodon yesterday too, checking that out. But if this stuff continues, like I don't know if I'll be able to stay on Twitter.
Well, Gab is using Gab is actually running their own Mastodon server. But there was infighting there, so they're actually blocked off from the majority of the Fediverse. But yeah, they are using it. Isn't they're using that open source code that Mastodon uses.
Yeah,
it's a fork.
Weird times, freaks. Weird times.
I think these things are just gonna. It's gonna. Hopefully we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater in the meantime, but it's just going to take time, for these for more open platforms to come around and start getting like some network effect and stuff. Platforms where you can't block people, you can't censor people by design. I don't really think any of them are there yet, though. I don't think Mastodon's there. I don't think Gab's a real solution. I mean, they've already been hypocrites in certain things that Marty you agree with, but.
What's that?
They're blocking porn on
Are they?
On Gab, yeah. So it's like free speech for speech that I like only, And I think, and then you have other centralized, options like Parler is out recently, and it's just the same idea. It's just different masters. You're choosing different centralized masters that are going to choose what goes on and what doesn't go on. When really the ultimate solution is going to be more open platforms where you don't have that kind of censorship possibility to begin with. But it's going to take time, and it's, yeah, I kind of look at it the same way I look at the privacy issues. Like, there's just going to have to be pain, and people are going to have to learn slowly and the hard way. Yeah. On the bright side, though, like Twitter, like it completely blew up in their face. I mean, the article they tried to block on the New York Post article got way more views because of what they did.
Streisand
and
effect.
Yeah, and then they backtracked. They Jack's just been doing damage control ever since then.
Yeah, it's a pretty weak response. Jack, if you're listening, can't imagine the stress of running Twitter, but you have to have a better response to that. You can't just block links during 3 weeks before an election. It's insane. I can't wait for this election to be over.
Well, I've said from the beginning that the mess that they ever got themselves in was trying to moderate the shit to begin with. It should just be...
It's a slippery slope, and the slippery slope is just getting slipperier and slipperier, and now you're at a point... You started with Alex Jones, and now you can't fucking share an NY Post link. It's fucking insane.
There should be no algorithm. It should just be a straight time-based feed, and Twitter should do zero moderation whatsoever. And you should be able to subscribe to moderation lists if you want to by outside moderators.
Yes.
That's it.
Allow people
super simple.
Allow developers to leverage your API, build those products.
Exactly.
Twitter becomes more of the protocol that
Twitter's already dead. It's just not priced in yet, unfortunately.
Ooh. Yeah, you've been
And to the people that say that Jack is going to bring this over with, Cash App's our sponsor with Square or whatever, I think two things. First of all, I think he has way more control over Square than he does over Twitter. I think the amount of power that people think he has over Twitter is greatly overstated. Like it's been taken over by the executive board and whatnot. He doesn't have that much control of Twitter. And second of all, if he fucks with Bitcoin, like Bitcoiners will just turn on him in a fucking heartbeat. Like you don't have to preemptively turn on him. I mean, if you want to, go, by all means do it. But I'll turn on him, if he turns on Bitcoin, if he starts attacking Bitcoin. If you look at someone like Brian Armstrong and Coinbase, you can see how much worse, the scenario could be. Like having Square, having a massive public company, fighting for self-custody, fighting the Square crypto is funding great fucking projects over there. It could be, there's like no shit coins on Cash App. Like it could be so much worse. I think at Square they're fighting the good fight, and it's easy to combine the two and say like Twitter is fucking bullshit and so Square is fucking bullshit, but they're wholly separate companies.
Yes. We know a few members of the Cash App team, and I think they have good intentions, Bitcoin's best intentions in mind. And yeah, I would echo what Matt said there. I don't think Jack has much granular control over what's going on at Twitter, as many people think. But yeah, I want to be more optimistic of Twitter's future. Like I wish they would just like go back to before they started banning Alex Jones and Milo. Just go back to that policy, let everybody back on. Open up your API, let people create those moderation lists that Matt was talking about, and get back to basics.
I've been waiting for that for too long now. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Actions speak louder than words, and I'll be consistent about that. That's why I'm bearish on Twitter, but I have no issues with Square yet. If Square starts banning CoinJoin usage and stops funding open source development, they're funding BTC Pay server, if they start making moves like that, they start adding Filecoin and shitcoin after shitcoin after shitcoin.
How about that dump, dude?
Then I'll fucking turn on them at that point. But if the freaks want to turn on them now, they can turn on them now. I don't care. I want the freaks to be independent about it. But I just want them to know my thinking. Yeah, and fuck Filecoin. The use case of Filecoin is just dumping on retail.
How egregious was it? Like one of the more egregious. It was at like $200 at one point, and VCs automatically. It got added to Coinbase or
Gemini, at least, and Gemini, I think Coinbase. Yeah. And I mean, it's on a bunch. FTX
went from $200 to like $60 within.
And the pre-sale was like 50 cents to like the insiders or something.
Yes, so even at $60, they're up 120x. It's insane.
Yeah, fuck that shit. I shouldn't even brought it up, but it's infuriating.
Yeah.
And we have to give Coinbase a shout out because I promised that any company that funds Bitcoin development would get a shout out, even if I hate them.
They're thinking about it. I don't think they've done it yet, have they?
Yeah, they haven't done it yet. That's important, Marty. That's a good point. And yeah, Brian Armstrong can still go fuck himself. So,
hey. I agree.
But it's good to see. At least finally, it looks like they're going to. We'll see if it happens.
Yes, we shall see. Relatively good news. Samuel Reed, CTO of BitMEX, got out of jail on bond, $5 million bond. So he's no longer in the clinker. However, the court case, the charges that have been launched at BitMEX via the U.S. government, they have a long battle ahead still. But Samuel,
and they seized his passport.
Yeah, so he won't be traveling anytime soon outside of the country. So we're going to keep covering BitMEX, including the fact that they hired a new compliance officer this week.
From Revolut Bank.
Revolut or Revolt?
I think it's Revolut, right? Isn't that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
They're European, right?
I think so. Yeah, we mentioned this last week. We read this news from BitMEX's blog.
Did we?
Yeah, we're looking at a block crypto
No, well, apologies.
rehash of their blog. To our Indian freak. What was that?
I mean, the big news today that's going down right now is OKX seems to be in fucking
yes,
a hot mess. Their withdrawals have been suspended. And right before we started recording, like $35 million worth of Bitcoin got sent to Binance from
really?
the wallet. So
Lovely.
I don't know what's going on there. Supposedly their founder's in custody.
Yeah, so they have a blog post out, suspension of digital assets / cryptocurrency withdrawals. One of our private key holders is currently cooperating with the Public Security Bureau in investigations where required. We have been out of touch with the concerned private key holder. As such, the associated authorization cannot be completed. So it seems like the CCP has arrested one of their executives who holds a private key, is at least a story they're telling.
Well, I am Nomad on
OJ.
Twitter. What?
OJ
was saying that he posted a screenshot of their cold storage, and they say their cold storage is like set up, if there's a kidnapping, if there's all these different scenarios. So he thinks they're full of shit because they're basically saying that like Starzu, their founder, is in custody, and that's why they can't do withdrawals. And he says, that's bullshit. So what he thinks it is or like his guess is that they're working with the CCP for some reason, and they don't want to tell us the full truth.
Really?
The one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of the Plus token money went through OKCoin.
Yes.
Or OKX. I don't know. They're the same, right? They're just it's like
I don't think they're the same.
Isn't OKX just a branch of OKCoin?
Maybe, I'm not positive.
Yeah, I believe so. I think OKX is like maybe they're global facing or the opposite.
Yeah, they have the same logo or similar logos. It's weird. Very similar, not the exact same.
One is like global facing and one is.
Well, anyway, it seems that they're
and they're based in Hong Kong, based in Malta, but their headquarters are in Hong Kong or something to that effect.
Yeah. So beware, freaks, if you have any UTXOs on OKEX and can't cut them off. Let this be a lesson. I hope that you will eventually be able to withdraw those UTXOs. But while you're not able to, think long and hard about how much Bitcoin you have on particular exchanges.
On any exchanges.
On any exchanges, yes. And whether or not you would be more comfortable with that in self-custody. If you're not comfortable with self-custody, start reading up. Bitcoin demands extreme ownership, demands extreme research. Start practicing. Practice makes perfect. Indian exchanges are working together to provide stricter KYC AML compliance. CoinDesk reported on this to any of our Indian freaks out there. It seems that it's very volatile over in India with Bitcoin exchanges. I feel like the government
was banned and then it was unbanned. Now this.
Yeah. So in the 7 months since India's top court allowed banks to legally service crypto platforms, users, and trade volumes, the local exchanges have increased, but regulators have been a little opaque on the rules. So it seems like they're coming out of nowhere and adding some KYC AML compliance
It seems
stuff
like
as well.
they're sharing information, right? They're like setting up an API between the different exchanges so that they can automatically share information and then send it to the regulators.
Yes. So be aware. Any freaks listening in India, the government's coming for your information, and they probably know that you own Bitcoin if you're buying it on centralized exchanges. But I'd be interested to see what the breakdown of P2P exchanges and regulated exchanges, like P2P, like black market exchanges in India, since the exchanges were shut down.
I imagine it's more, they have a stronger P2P because there was a need, right? People realized.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, the Indian people in general, I mean, we discussed this briefly last week. You know, they value gold a lot. They have a very independent pension in general, and the government is always constantly trying to like wrestle control over them. So I wouldn't be surprised if, and we saw that with the cash ban, where like a lot of Indians just had like large amounts of cash like under their mattress, essentially. So I wouldn't be surprised if the black market over there is, and the gray market is a lot stronger than in Western countries, at least percentage wise.
Yeah, I would not be shocked at all if it's pretty robust. You imagine if the exchanges were basically...
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't get it. Like, if you wanted to get Bitcoin, you had to go that route.
Yeah.
And then also at the same time, we have Spain. Spain has a new bill on the books that looks like it's going to get placed into effect. That's going to require full disclosure of Bitcoin holdings, which I think is just going to become like pretty much the standard across most of the developed world, at least for the near term. So we'll see how all that plays out.
Beware, Spanish freaks. The government wants to know how much Bitcoin you own. I guess the steps there, if it's going to get forced upon you, make sure you don't give up your addresses. Like for our taxes this year for TFTC, the business, we had to report how much Bitcoin we owned. Or it was on our
you have to report income.
Yeah, it was on our balance sheet, so.
Yeah.
TFTC.
I mean, I think in the beginning they're not going to ask for addresses, but ultimately they're going to start asking for addresses at some point.
Fuck them.
Like in Canada, we already saw them. I think they were asking for addresses. Yeah. Not great. We'll see how this plays out.
Speak up, freaks. Speak up. Every little speak up goes a long way. We already mentioned this in the ad read at the beginning. Unchained added cold card support. Pretty dope. Long time coming. As Matt said, air gap only for their support. Which requires a little bit more understanding of how the cold card works, particularly offline, and how to use this SD card, but well worth it to be able to diversify the hardware wallets that are used in the multi-sig quorums on Unchained. It helps diversify risk.
You want to rattle out our updates?
Rattle them out. If you're running MyNode version 0.2.16, version 0.2.17 is now available. And this is an upgrade. They had a major UI update in this. They upgraded Dojo as well to version 1.8.0 and a couple other things. Spectre's up to date in there as well. Nodl version 0.1.1F is out in the wild now too. If you're running a Nodl, make sure you upgrade. They're planning a bigger upgrade this weekend, so be on the lookout for that. Right now, they pushed this update to upgrade L&D to version 0.11.1 and
They upgraded Dojo.
And they upgraded Dojo as well. Ride the Lightning version 0.9.1 beta has been released. Go update that if you're running Ride the Lightning. Eclair version 0.4.2 has been released by Async. Major changes, plugins, third-party plugins are now able to add new feature bits to Eclair and handle unknown custom messages. This lets plugin developers offer services to their clients that are not available in the Lightning specification.
And they added keysend support.
Yes, keysend, anchor outputs, and they made some API changes as well. So if you're running Eclair, make sure you go upgrade that to version 0.4.2. Join Market version 0.7.1 is now available. And BIP78 pay join receiver has been implemented.
Yes. So before on Join Market, you could send pay joins. You couldn't receive pay joins. For BIP78, which is the pay join compatibility one that's compatible with Wasabi, BTC Pay, and Blue Wallet.
Yes. So that's pretty big for usability and ability to get easier privacy by being able to receive a pay join. Treasure Suite public beta has been released. I tested it out earlier this week. It's pretty cool. It's pretty sleek. But I was messaging with you. I was hoping this desktop app was going to enable me to connect to my full node not have to depend on Trezor servers, but that's not the case.
No full node support, no coin control. But, hopefully one day they'll add it. In the meantime, you could use your Trezor with Spectre, and you get both of those things. So,
Matt, Liquid Bull and Spectre Bull. When we were talking about that, you were
way
just like,
more
dude,
bullish on Spectre than Liquid.
You were like, just get on Spectre, dude.
Yeah, I'm a Spectre maximalist now.
Yes.
Spectre plus Bitcoin Core.
Makes
Get
a lot of
it
sense.
done.
Makes a lot of sense. Electrum version 4.0.4 has been released. I believe there was some.
It has like this
interesting
auto
things.
RBF mode.
Yes, that's
where
what
you
it
can
was.
like cancel it. It's
said-
really just RBF to yourself, replaced by fee to
They
yourself.
said
but
double spend, right?
But in practice, what you're doing is you're like canceling the transaction because you're just replacing it by fee and sending it to yourself, which is a feature that Blue Wallet implemented first, and then Electrum borrowed from there. It's a great idea. I mean, from a UX point of view, it makes a lot more sense to a person as a cancel transaction.
Yes. They fix something with their PSBT implementation as well, and this seems pretty big actually, because I know Unchained had this problem with Ledger too. They fixed the derivation path as unusual warnings, I believe, for multi-sig transactions. The Ledger device sends a weird little warning that scares people away, I believe. Could be wrong. That's all we got for updates.
There's a lot of updates. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
This was interesting news. Stone Ridge announced a $115 million Bitcoin investment. I believe it is an investment firm. They had a bunch of analysts on the team that were Bitcoin bulls just personally and had Bitcoin in their personal accounts. They would talk to their clients about this. Their clients said, hey, we want exposure to we want exposure to Bitcoin. And the team wound up building something, I think it's NYDIG or something like that, which was a spinoff of the fund that specializes in custody of Bitcoin, and I believe NYDIG, yes, New York Digital Investment Group, and I believe other cryptocurrencies as well. But I believe they have $1 billion AUM, 115 million, or 10 billion AUM, and 115 million is in Bitcoin. So it was, and I believe they've had this position for a while, so they're leaking it, maybe getting FOMO after seeing Michael
said
Saylor.
10 billion, right?
10 billion AUM, 115
right.
million.
Well, that's
yes.
Stone Ridge is 10 billion, and then New York Dig has 115 million worth of Bitcoin, which was an existing investment, I guess, already.
Yes. So I guess they
Or maybe they just raised it a little bit.
Potentially. I believe they saw Michael Saylor and Jack announcing that they had Bitcoin on their treasuries and said, hey, we've been doing this for a while. Learn about us. Speaking of Bitcoin treasuries, our good friend Rodolfo slapped those bingo boards, has created a site, Bitcointreasuries.org, and he is competing with our boy Matt Odell for the best domain names.
He has a problem. He has a domain addiction problem. I hope he gets it checked out.
Yes. So if you're a publicly traded company or a private company, and you want to get added to this list of companies with Bitcoin on their treasuries, you can do so at Bitcointreasuries.org. Altogether, there are 620,030 Bitcoin on the balance sheets of publicly traded companies, private companies, and ETF-like products.
Yeah, they're just cheating because the GBTC is holding a shit ton there.
Yes.
Barry.
He's going to keep buying those Bitcoins, he said, so...
Yeah, he has it hosted on GitHub, so you can just submit a pull request if you want to change it. If you want to add information there. I mean, the public companies you can actually verify because they have to report those numbers. The private ones, you're just taking their word for it because they don't have those public disclosures. I mean, I listened to your podcast with Ansel. It was a great podcast with Ansel Lindner. You guys mentioned two things there. You mentioned I think he said 10 to 20%. If we got to 10 to 20% of Americans owning Bitcoin, it'd become a lot harder for Bitcoin to be banned. Possibly. I tend to agree with that line of reasoning. But what percentage do you think we're at right now?
That own Bitcoin,
Like 1%?
350 million people. 1% would be 3.5 mil.
With self-custody, and I mean, I won't put the onus that they have to use their own node, but self-custody at least. We'll say just self-custody.
I bet it's less than 1%.
Right, way less than 1%. And then the second thing you guys said is you did mention these public companies that are all owning Bitcoin. I don't think they help us that much. I think they help increase the price of Bitcoin, but they're not going to fight for self-sovereign Bitcoin users. They don't give a shit. They don't care about that shit. The price raises, so it makes the network more secure because the token that pays the miners and results in higher hash rate and whatnot increases. But they're not going to. Michael Saylor's not going to be fighting a fight for self-sovereign Bitcoin users.
Well, I will push back and say the inclusion of Bitcoin on these publicly traded companies' balance sheets is a passive way to protect Bitcoin, because if you hit a certain threshold of important companies like Square coming in, I think is much more important than MicroStrategy, because Square is probably one of the most innovative companies in the country when it comes to fintech products. And I think they would probably get mad at me if I labeled them a fintech company, like a neobank. And it's a passive protection because it makes it that much harder for the government to crack down, because you have systemic publicly traded U.S. companies with this asset on their balance sheet. And if the government were to come in and shut down Bitcoin overnight, you would actually hurt the stock market significantly, as we know with presidents.
That's not what they're going to do, though. If they attacked it, well, first of all, with Square it is different because Square is self-custodying, which is awesome, right? Not your keys, not your coins. And I think Square has a direct incentive to make sure, to try and fight for Bitcoiners to be able to self-custody, because if you look at their user flows, like a large amount of their users are just buying Bitcoin as they should and just immediately withdrawing it, right? So it hurts their business if and you see that with their Square Crypto, how they've been funding development and stuff with funding BTC Pay Server.
But
they have an incentive. They want to see like self-sovereign Bitcoin usage happening, right?
And I think the Michael Saylors of the world want that too. He seems pretty passionate. They may not self-custody their Bitcoin yet, but I could see him definitely.
No, he literally said there's no reason to spend your Bitcoin ever, like on Twitter.
Yeah, he said that. He can believe that, but he can believe there's a reason to self-custody.
He said there's only like the most important transaction you should make is after you buy it, sending it to cold storage. But to him, that means sending it to his custodial wallet that someone else is holding as cold storage. Look, if the government comes after, if the U.S. government comes after Bitcoin, or if any of these governments come after Bitcoin, they're not going to come out for a full ban. They're going to say you need to do full disclosures. They're going to make self-custody as difficult as possible. They're going to make it doesn't hurt the digital gold narrative as much, right? It's not going to I don't see them. They already are disclosing all of their shit, right? Like they have to as like publicly traded companies. It doesn't impact their usage of Bitcoin that much. And I don't think that
you got to think game theoretically here, though. Like,
do you think Barry Silbert's gonna help protect us from the U.S. government?
No, but we've already proven that he's ineffective. Remember
at attacking.
Remember he had people meet in a hotel room.
Yeah, he was ineffective at attacking Bitcoin, but I also would say he's ineffective at protecting Bitcoin. Like I don't think it's like that big. It's good to see. I'm not saying it's not good to see. I just don't think. I think Bitcoiners should be careful about overstating how much protection we get from these big public companies from buying Bitcoin and holding it on their balance sheets.
Yeah, it's inevitable they're going to be doing it. And then too, think of the game theory, play it out though. Like still, I think that leads to the scenario that I described earlier, in which if you allow these companies to be co-opted and they diminish Bitcoin's assurances, it diminishes the value of the token on their balance sheet. And again, if that's being incited by the government, maybe the government thinks twice about that because they are impairing U.S. publicly traded U.S. companies. And as we know, presidents and Fed Reserve Board members love the stock market. Though would the dissolution of just the Bitcoin portion of their balance sheet be enough to bring the stock price down far enough that they wouldn't attack? I don't know. Just playing it through my head.
I don't know if forced disclosures of Bitcoin ownership and restrictions on self-custody will hurt the price of Bitcoin. Do you think it might not hurt the price of Bitcoin? And if it doesn't hurt the price of Bitcoin, then that whole incentive structure goes out the window.
I think it has to, though, right?
I don't know. I think a lot of compliance bros would say that, it gives Bitcoin further legitimacy in the eyes of regulators.
But like the people who actually need to use it for the purposes.
It won't be framed as we're destroying Bitcoin. It'll be framed the same way that end-to-end encryption DOJ thing was framed, where they really care about Bitcoin and they want to see it foster a great ecosystem and yada 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 while they fuck us. Like that's how it's going to be framed if it happens.
Yeah, and again, it won't happen because the immune system, like SegWit2x, arguably would have created an attack vector on the network.
Yeah, but that's different than saying that the public companies having it on their balance sheet protects us, gives us like great protection. Like it's not protecting us. Just because they can't attack us using it doesn't mean that that the opposite is true.
See, no, yeah, I would argue against that. I would say it definitely, if anything, delays enforcement. Because the government
you think MicroStrategy having Bitcoin
I think Square
delays. Okay, like I said, Square is a different story.
Yes.
I think Square, is fighting the good fight.
Yes.
For now.
And it's like, yeah, Square can be an example that brings in other Square-like companies. Again, if anything, it delays, which is a form of protection, I would argue.
But Square is, I'm looking on the sheet right now. Square is 4,000 of the 620,000 Bitcoin on this fucking Bitcointreasuries.org.
Yeah, well, so, they're stacking sats. They're going to stack sats quarterly.
I just want people to.
And well, this is a good segue into our next topic. Our good friend Ria Batoria from Fidelity Digital Assets, put out a great report this week recommending a 5% portfolio allocation to Bitcoin. So maybe this will help expedite it, which will help delay the attacks on Bitcoin. We'll see, though. No, don't ever be complacent. This is a little complacency freaking, but I'm also trying to paint a picture of potential game theory scenarios that could play out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like I was trying to say earlier. Like, I'm not saying that there's no benefit. I just don't want the benefit to be overstated. Like, I think there's different levels of benefit. Like, if we have rich people that are self-custodying, that are using their own nodes, stuff like that, like they're providing more protection. To me, I believe they're providing more protection to the core value prop of Bitcoin. Why I find Bitcoin interesting, than someone who just keeps it, publicly disclosed on their balance sheet in a custodial partner.
Yeah. No. Just laying out the facts here, the scenarios. It's interesting to war game this stuff. Is that the correct term? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, good.
I know. I love. I mean, this is what I like. This is what I miss about the New York Bitcoin meetups, right?
Yeah.
It's like, because especially you get a little drink in and you start going through all these different scenarios.
Yeah, yeah. I believe there is an in-person meetup in Central Park, right?
Yeah, in Washington Square Park.
Washington Square Park.
He leaves New York and just starts confusing all of our parks.
There's so many of them. I miss Central Park. Again, I mentioned Ria Batoria from Fidelity Digital Assets put out a research piece with a portfolio allocation recommendation. You guys should definitely check that out. And our boy, my counterpart here at RHR, we mentioned it a few weeks ago. He was on a privacy panel at a Fidelity privacy conference a couple of months ago Was that a couple of months ago?
I think it was September.
Yeah.
So last month.
So Sam Abbasi was the moderator.
And they released the full. You can watch every talk that happened. They did a really good job.
Yeah,
Their priorities really seemed to be in good place. But yeah, mine was with Tom Robinson of Elliptic and
Ricardo.
Fluffy Pony. Yeah, and Sam Abbasi of Fidelity moderated it. It was a good conversation. It was a fun one.
Yeah, go check it out, freaks.
I appreciate them having me.
Yeah, and shout out to you, fighting the good fight on these panels.
But see, like that's what, like if you ask Tom, like he says, you know, they're helping Bitcoin because they're making it more regulatory compliant by doing all this chain surveillance and stuff. But I bet you if you ask a lot of these, you know, these public companies, they would say the same thing. That's why I'm not necessarily sure. Like a lot of times, news that we would find bearish, other people would find bullish. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
Doesn't necessarily mean the price is going to... Like, the worst case scenario for me, I don't know. The worst case scenario for me is, like, the Bitcoin price, like, pumps, and, like, we're right about that, but they just stamp us all out. You know? They just, like, fuck us all.
Right.
Like, that would be the worst case scenario to me.
Some of the 2011 OGs
I'd rather
would
go to
say
zero.
That already happened.
I'd rather go to fucking zero.
But if you talk to like the 2011, 2012 OGs, they'll say that already happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to some people, they say I'm being dangerously towards the Bcash narrative, but I don't think that's the case. That's not what I'm trying to say here.
Whoa. No, I know. I agree with that perspective. Well, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
I'm just on the side of freedom. I think people should have freedom. So if freedom gets stamped out, I'll be pissed off.
Yes, and freedom's being attacked pretty aggressively from all angles right now, freaks.
Exactly.
So get out there and speak up. Marathon Patent Group announced, this is a mining company here in North America, they announced a joint venture with Beowulf Energy for 105 megawatt Bitcoin mining data center. They also just put in a big order for Bitmain S19s. So we mentioned hash rate getting plugged in the beginning of the episode when we were talking about the upcoming difficulty adjustment tomorrow. And so here's an indication that more hash rate with some of the most recent hardware will be coming to the network soon. We'll see if that S19 batch is up to snuff. Hopefully they don't have the failure rates that some of their batches have had to date. This was a really cool piece. Love that BitMEX is just chugging through this controversy they're going through. They wrote a blog on the risk of brain wallets and how easy they are to be swept. So if you can create your own private key with a random string of words, some people in the past have used lines of a book, and there's bots out there that are just looking to sweep poorly made private keys, particularly seed phrases.
Yeah, I mean, they already know the private keys, so they're just checking them all the time.
Yeah.
So don't do that. It's good to see good BitMEX research pieces still coming out, given all the shit they're dealing with. So cheers to them for that.
Keep fighting the good fight, freaks, at BitMEX. Ellen research data. I did not look at this yet. What do you got here?
Neither have I. It's just a massive data set, so you can go and see like the topology of the network at any given time. So that could be really useful for people trying to do research and analysis of Lightning and how it's evolved. Yeah.
Yes.
It's all on GitHub. Pretty cool.
Another pretty cool thing is Musig2, a simple 2-round Schnorr multi-signatures. Jonas Nick, Tim Ruffing, and Yannick Sirin, some Bitcoin developers worked on. It looks like, again, Musig2, and I have holding my hand up here. I haven't dove into the whole paper, but the way I understand it is that it makes multi-sig more private.
Except that with the trade-off that it's interactive, so both keys have to be online at the same time.
Yes.
So it's more for like hot wallets and stuff, I believe.
It's actually interesting then. Like merchants running Lightning nodes constantly.
Yeah, it could be really useful for Lightning because Lightning is 2 of 2 multi-sig.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah, we'll see how that's implemented. Last but not least, Joe Rogers has released the September edition of Words Bitcoin Journal. So bitcoinwords.github.io. If you guys want to check out CY20M9. So if you guys want to check that out, go do that. Yeah, busy week, crazy week. Like I said a couple minutes ago, freedom is being attacked from all sides. Bill Barr wants to put backdoors in your encryption, so he basically wants to end encryption. There's a bunch of crazy people who want the government to censor the internet more. There's a bunch of politicians who want to dictate what our social media companies can do. Twitter is not letting you share links to the New York Post. Can we end it on an optimistic note anyway, Matt?
The DOJ had like their 84-page paper on cryptocurrency last week.
Yeah, we should actually point out that their anatomy of a Bitcoin transaction is hilariously wrong.
Oh, one thing that fucking hilarious. Two things. I'll do the negative thing first, and then I'll do the positive thing. I looked up. We were discussing drone warfare last episode. Drone usage is actually, we've had more drone strikes since Obama, in the Trump administration, in Somalia, Afghanistan, and Yemen.
God damn.
The only one we went down in Pakistan.
That's why I said Yemen, man. People don't talk about Yemen enough.
No one's really talking about drone strikes in general. I thought that was interesting.
That was a big thing under Obama administration, and I am guilty here. I thought we were being more peaceful in the Trump administration.
Yeah, we're not. Just no one's talking about it. I guess just all this other shit's going on. And then the other thing, this is the positive. Well, I guess it's negative, but positive. In Nigeria, there's all this police abuse that's happening, and the groups that are organizing against it, the banks were used against them, and all of their fundraising has been stamped out. But now they're using BTC Pay server to accept donations globally towards this fight, which is like this is massive to me. Like this is one of the reasons I Bitcoin is because it gives people around the world the ability to access a global financial system without censorship, or in a censorship-resistant way. So it's fucking fantastic to see.
I like that we can end it on a positive note.
Yeah, see, I'm bullish on that. Bullish as fuck.
Okay. I'm bullish too right now. Remember, freaks. Is it the day is darkest before the dawn? Is that the quote?
The way I look at it is
the night is darkest before the dawn.
Yeah, we knew there's going to be a fight. Like, of course there's going to be a fight. You know, what is that quote? It's like, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win.
Yes.
Right? And we're at the then they fight you stage. So if it wasn't a fight, then that would be bearish in itself. You know, I think there's going to be a fight here because it's such a monumental thing in human history. We actually have the ability to, enforce our rights and empower individuals, like using code instead of just laws. And I think that's going to be massive. But it's going to be painful. It's not going to be like this easy, magical unicorn process.
I agree. So buckle up, freaks. Sack up. Put your helmets on. Put your big boy pants on. Your big girl pants on. Your big girl bra on. Whatever you need to put on. Got a fight ahead of us. I'm happy to be on the front lines with you, freaks. There was one thing I wanted to mention before we get out of here. Oh, yeah. Especially here in America, things are probably going to be very chaotic in the next 2 weeks. Just realize that we're coming into an election. Try to ground yourself. I fail at doing that myself sometimes and fall prey to the madness of the media narrative of the given day. Have to consciously, inactively remind yourself that this is for a reason. Got a chaotic election season.
I love you all.
Peace and love, freaks.